Hello there, my name is Tom Senior, I'm the web editor of PC Gamer, and I'm joined today by Phil Savage.
Hello, I'm the news editor of PC Gamer.
You are, and we've both played the first 5 hours of Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, that's right.
At an event last week. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to have a go on PC Code, so I was on PS4, but
right.
you were on PC, weren't you?
I was on PC, yeah.
And we thought we'd just talk a little bit about our initial reactions to the first few areas and what it might say about the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Phil, what was your overriding impression of the first few hours?
I came away with a few concerns. I mean, I know you've got quite a few concerns, probably more so than me. There are things that bother me about what I played. There are things that I'm still a bit unsure about, but a lot of positives I took away as well. Okay.
I found the intro to be super abrupt in the way it sets up the whole kind of... it's no spoiler to say that you form the Inquisition. The Inquisition is kind of its own independent...
Yeah, you don't really form the Inquisition, do you? You sort of cast into the Inquisition. It's kind of... There's a sort of maelstrom of events that you barely feel that you've got any sort of agency in, and you kind of... Everybody looks like they're just struggling to get a handle on what's going on, and... Yeah, like the opening bit where they actually form the Order, that does feel a little underwhelming.
So you drop out the big rift in the sky, and the rift is kind of pouring demons into the world. And of course, you have amnesia, like every RPG hero ever. Apparently, must have amnesia.
Very sort of limited amnesia of that. You don't remember anything that happened in the. It's actually the. Temple of the Sacred Ashes, which if you played Dragon Age Origins, that's where you reclaim the Sacred Ashes that helped the Jarl in Redcliffe, that saved him. It all takes place there. That's sort of the centre of this giant breach in the sky. You went in there, depending on your origin, for various reasons, to oversee a meeting between the Divine of the Chantry, the Templars and the Mages to try and bring a resolution to the war that began in Dragon Age 2. There's a big explosion, there's a big hole in the sky, and you don't remember anything that happened in that space.
So it took me a while to realise that was even what my character was doing there in the first place. One thing I would say to people is that by releasing the Dragon Age Keep, which is a kind of way to construct a save game, I think that's going to be absolutely essential because the game doesn't tell you who the Chantry are, who the Templars are, what their current status is, or what's really happening. It just kind of throws you into the world and expects you to make a hash of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, having played the previous Dragon Age games is just going to help, full stop, into knowing the world. I think there is a situation where perhaps they're now so familiar with that lore that they're not necessarily great at imparting it. Codex entries appear, obviously, but that's a very sort of stop-and-start process of having to go into a menu and actually look at what's going on and what's happening.
It's very very buzzword heavy, the opening, and it expects you to know that world very, very well, and doesn't really explain what the current situation is.
Like there are orders at work that are only sort of barely mentioned in previous games, like the Seekers of Truth, and that's just thrown about as if you should know what that means. And if you're our colleague Chris Thurston, you will, because you just consume that lore. But I think if you just even if you've played the games, but you were always focused on what your actual character was doing and not what the world was, it's going to be a struggle to an extent.
Or if you've just played Dragon Age 2 a few years ago, it was years ago now that it was released. So I think kind of consuming some of the Keep, and maybe Fail Better are doing a free game with BioWare as well, which is kind of text adventure, which apparently bridges the narrative gap between Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition.
Supposedly so, yeah.
So that would be helpful. But early on, we got our first taste of one of the open areas, the Hinterlands, which is our first chance to get to grips with the, frankly, really beautiful open world.
It's a great landscape, and a massive landscape as well.
It's really big. I was really impressed by it. It's huge. I've spent hours there doing it.
I think I spent the majority of the preview that we got to play there, and it was clear that I'd only just prodded at what was in just that one area.
It's impressively designed, kind of as an open world location. It works very well because you're constantly rounding corners and being confronted by sites that have been constructed almost like postcards for you. You'll turn around and there'll be like you'll see a castle and like rays of light coming down on top of it, or a dragon will buzz overhead. It's like, fantasy Call of Duty that way. But this all happens dynamically as you're exploring. I remember going down the coast and there's just a dragon having a fight with a giant, and there's like lightning strikes and stuff happening around it. All of this stuff, it felt like a pretty cool place to explore. I really liked that.
Definitely, yeah. Sort of sense of scope and scale, and of just a world being lived in to an extent. Like an ecosystem is sort of. I think you can, to an extent, sort of see how they've been constructed as sort of set pieces to play at you as you ride over for the first time, perhaps. But that doesn't really matter to an extent. Like the spectacle is there.
Though I think what underwhelmed me about it was most of what I was doing in those areas. So you're basically going out to secure support from locals, get materials, you talk to a horse master to get some horses, that kind of thing. But a lot of that stuff was reminding me a lot of MMO quest design. It was I literally had to kill 10 yaks at one point to get some yak meat. I had to collect 10 pieces of iron from the environment and 1 piece of leather, and this stuff is just, I don't want that from a BioWare game.
No, it's totally fair. Like for me, I think the context of what I was doing was important. The 10, like, because I got the collect 10 bits of ram meat or whatever it was as well. That sort of makes sense in a, well, okay, but there are refugees in this camp, they need food. If I get food, that's charitable work, that will kind of improve the stock of the Inquisition. What I've got a bigger problem with was, like, as you wander around, you'll find notes, and they'll be between, you know, characters that have nothing to do with you. It's somebody writing their brother or somebody writing their friend, and one of them was just, oh, you should kill 3 bears because killing bears is cool. And then suddenly I have the quest to go and kill 3 bears. No one asked me to kill 3 bears. I saw somebody say, you should get bear claws. And it was suddenly I was expecting, my character obviously thought, that's the thing I could do. I was like, but there's no, I can't see how that would help me. I can't see how that would help the Inquisition. That's just, you know, content for content's sake.
Yeah, I think that might be, that cuts to the main problem I had with that area is that it felt like there was a lot of quest padding in there. And when I play BioWare games, I expect, like, the overall effect, it felt very impersonal to me, because most of what I was doing wasn't talking to my companions or interacting with other characters or making decisions about, you know, the future of the realm. It was mostly doing kind of admin stuff.
Largely,
but of course this is only the first few hours of the game, and I'm sure it's
first few hours of a game, that is supposedly like tens and tens, maybe hundreds of hours. Like, you know, there's,
so it's very early days. It was just the impression I got. What did you think of combat?
Actually, combat is one of my perhaps biggest concerns. It's been changed kind of significantly, and I don't think, like, what I want to know is whether the combat has been changed in a way that makes it more sort of comfortable as a control pad, and then when mapped back to mouse and keyboard that hasn't worked, or whether they have just made, like, you know, design decisions that I disagree with outright. It's a direct attack system now, essentially. Like, you hold down the mouse button and your character will swipe away. And on top of that, there are hotbar skills, as there would be in Dragon Age before. But it's clear the focus is sort of meant to be on, rather than pausing and assigning orders and then overviewing and then letting it play out and intervening as you needed, just taking control of one character and seeing them through, and only occasionally going out to what's called the tactics menu and assigning things for other characters before going back and embodying this one person. Because you just have to be sort of there, swiping away, directing the flow of combat. It's kind of confusing in the way that you can pause and you can access the tactics menu, which also pauses and lets you assign orders and stuff. But if you pause, you can't assign orders normally. And it's like, I don't know why that division is there. It just seems like, because, you know, I've played the Dragon Age. Actually, I played both Dragon Age games over the last couple of months in sort of preparation and just to remind me of what's going on. And now I'm so used to being able to just hit pause button, assign the orders, go away, watch it sort of happen. And now I'd hit the pause button, tell somebody to attack it, and they just wouldn't, because that's not where you tell somebody to attack a thing now.
There are no healers now.
No.
Which is quite a big shift for the game. And it's interesting, because there is a kind of a problem in RPGs where you just guzzle infinite health potions, and essentially, as BioWare have described, it means that everyone has infinite health bars. And
yeah, I mean, like, the problem that causes is obvious in Dragon Age 2, where you were just swamped with wave after wave of enemy. Like, you'll clear a location of people, and then people will materialise just to attack you some more. Because
that does not happen in Inquisition.
No, not at all. Like, wandering through, you'll probably find, because it's an open world, it's very easy. Like, almost in MMO style, well, just you see the bands of enemies on your map, and you can avoid them if you want, or you can go into them, but there'll probably only be 3 or 4 people. Because like you will slowly, just travelling the world will slowly erode away at your health. Your party will use potions. You'll use potions. After a fight, your health bar just doesn't regenerate at all. When you're out of combat, it stays the same. The only way to charge it back up is to go to one of the camps that you've set up, or found a new camp, which you can do at set points on the map, and that will refill your potion stock and rest you all up. And like, I did find myself like pushing out, obviously overextended myself, and like everybody had no potions, everyone was on low health, and it was kind of a struggle to.
It becomes it's more of attrition. Exploration has become quite attritional in Dragon Age Inquisition in a way that hasn't been in Dragon Age before, and I'm not sure that entirely fits with the fantasy where you're supposed to be an adventurer going out into the wild, and it's quite it's high adventure, isn't it? It's not. I don't necessarily expect survivalist elements where I could die in the wilds, that kind of thing. I don't know. I find it frustrating to have to keep revisiting the camps, and then striking out again and again and again.
Yeah, no, I think what you'll learn to do. I think where the shift will be is the way I started to see it was, okay, well, I'm at this camp, I need to go to that camp, and then that becomes the sort of adventure. There is going from here to here and stopping off and doing what I can on the way, but just having this end goal of I need to get to here, because if I don't, I'll be in trouble.
That makes sense.
But yeah, like it's a strange shift to get used to, and I think partly some of the problems could just be, okay, well, this is just different. This is different. This is sort of new for what we've seen BioWare do before. How is that going to work now then over the course of a campaign where, once you get to the end of it, the early problems might not seem as, you'll probably have internalised quite a lot of what's happened.
I guess we've been quite negative, but that's kind of that's the nature of these discussions. You always kind of fixate on the things that you might have problems with, but it does look fantastic. The new engine has let them do things with landscapes that BioWare have just never been able to do before.
Yeah.
They've of course they've made enormous environments for the Old Republic, but not to this degree of fidelity not with the.
Yeah, I mean, you can see sort of flashes of. Obviously, it doesn't look like Battlefield in that it's the same level of detail. It's much broader than that. But sometimes you'll talk to somebody and you can see that sort of very frostbite-looking face.
Yeah,
and it's almost disconcertingly detailed and kind of. I think we're approaching on Fantasy Uncanny Valley, which is.
Yeah, so it's worth stressing that in the first 5 hours there weren't a huge number of main story missions.
That's the thing. I think you get dumped in the Hinterlands and you're sort of given a suggestion of what you need to do, but you are kind of left undirected. I think that might be like a key problem for the first few hours, is just this sense of kind of being drifting around without any clear goal. After you've done this one prologue to sort of assault the breach and see if you can close the big hole in the sky, you just sort of then, okay, we'll go and do something else.
Normally I quite like that, but I think I may have accidentally stumbled into all the worst quests in that place. I kind of I think I'm hoping that kill 10 yak stuff isn't really essential or necessary at all.
No.
Once you're actually into the main game proper, my big question is, do you really have to do that stuff, or is it like Far Cry picking up plants? You just don't have to do it if you don't want to.
That's it. I mean,
it's quite hard to get that from a 5 hour.
It does seem like the focus is more on the Inquisition as this organisation and where you take that, and to be forced to come back and essentially do busy work would just seem incredibly strange. But
yeah, I love the premise, as hastily cobbled together as it feels in the beginning. The idea that you are this kind of independent political body in a world that is like Dragon Age has always had great politics, political wrangling to it. There are these factions that disagree with each other, and you're kind of always trying to work with both of them. And Inquisition is just perfectly placed to really have fun with that stuff and
definitely
be really intelligent and really good. I think I'm still excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. Even there, you can sort of see the touchstones of where the story might go. Like, it's really intriguing thing. Like, as you're walking through the Hinterlands, you just see open warfare between Templars and Mages, and that's always been a very strong plot point across the Dragon Age games. Is just the level of tension there that has now just erupted. Hopefully, that will go into some interesting places, and there's so much they can draw on. And judging the size of what we've seen so far, they've probably built a game that has the scope to explore it.
Yeah. That's very exciting. Well, Phil, you're going to be reviewing it for us.
I am.
So that review, of course, will be on the site.
Yep.
As and when. That's farewell from me and farewell from Phil.
Farewell from me. Goodbye.